Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the video. I'm Tara here. I'm a registered nurse, a health coach, a nutritionist, and a personal trainer. Today's video is a little bit more science heavy. If you want to jump off of this video, you're really not feeling the science thing right now this early in the morning. I understand, but otherwise stick with me because what I'm talking about today sort of brings together two different goals that I have that I know a lot of other people have as well, where they can often be at odds with each other, and I'm going to explain why they're at odds with each other sometimes, and I'm also going to explain then some of the ways that I reconcile these differences. And so these two goals are muscle in general, having strength, building muscle, and also longevity, living a long and healthy health span. Okay, so let me tell you why those things can often be at odds with one another. If you are always in a state of growth, an anabolic state, you could also say, that often can trigger cancer to grow, okay? It can be carcinogenic to always be in a state of growth. And longevity, you may have heard out there that caloric restriction is big for longevity. So when people there's all kinds of studies you can read up on, when people cut their calories by a ton, by like a third, they live longer lifespans, okay? And they tend to be healthier, they tend to have less chronic disease. However, they happen to also very often be miserable. They can be really, really cold. Their metabolism drops really low. Forget about a sex drive. There's no sex drive at that point. If you're a woman and you are experiencing a cycle, your cycle might get all wonky, okay? So pros and cons to these things. So what do you do if you want to get strong and you want to grow your muscles and you want to be really fit and have tons of energy and not tank your metabolism, but you also want to live this long and healthy life, right? What do you do? Hi, Danielle. Okay, I should also preface this by saying what I'm telling you today is based on the most recent research. Okay, so it's kind of a risk for coming here and doing these videos is that this might be outdated very soon. This video today could be outdated tomorrow. I don't think it'll be outdated tomorrow, but certainly in a year or 5 years, there's gonna be more information that comes out, right? This stuff is really cutting edge research, so please keep that in mind, okay? So I'm just gonna tell you, obviously, everything up to what we know right now. So I need to give you a little background quickly. I think this will probably be the nerdiest part of what I go into, but you need to understand a little bit of the background so you can see going forward why I'm saying that these two things are at odds with one another. So we have something in our cells called mTOR, okay? It's a little m, capital T-O-R, mTOR, and it stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. Rapamycin is a drug that was initially discovered in the 1960s on Easter Island. Easter Island is also known as Rapa Nui or something like that, so that's where the drug got its name from. And it has been given traditionally as a medicine to reduce people's immune response. So if they were getting an organ transplant, in order to help prevent that person from their body from fighting off that foreign organ, they give this drug to reduce the immunity so your body doesn't fight it off as much. It's called rapamycin. Since then, a lot more recently, it's been discovered that this is also an inhibitor of mTOR. So mTOR is basically something that exists in our cells that is looking for all these different external inputs, external to the cell. And it's making a decision. So the decision that it has to make is whether or not to grow or to conserve resources instead. So it's looking at things like how much food are you taking in overall, calories, and then specifically how much glucose, sugar, carbs, how much protein, how much energy expenditure is going on here, how much are you exercising, how much are you really challenging your muscles. And it's looking at all of these different inputs and it's making a decision. It's either saying, okay, we are almost like in a time of feast, it's safe to grow, we can build, we can heal, we can grow muscle, we can do all that, or it's saying it's almost like a time of famine and we're better off conserving resources instead. So it's making this decision. And these are in our cells. These can be traced back so many years to single cell organisms. So anything that has survived from single cell organisms all the way up to us now, you know that something, there's value in it, of course, if this evolutionary process kept it all of these years. So what's going on is that mTOR, see, a lot of people will say, so should mTOR be high or low? Is it good or bad? And you can't make that black and white decision, as with a lot of things in health. What seems to be the case is that mTOR should be cycled high and low. Because if you stay in a state of high mTOR, your mTOR is saying that you're in a time of feast and you can grow and you can build, you can put on muscle, all of those things. It will also possibly be a risk factor for something like cancer, because it's also telling cancer that it's safe to grow, unfortunately. Think of it like you're just shopping. You're shopping, you're buying things off of Amazon, and stuff is just coming in the house. It's just coming in the house, it's kind of building up, okay? That's kind of like when mTOR is high. Now, sometimes you need to shop. Sometimes you want to build muscle. We want our energy high. We don't want to be freezing cold all the time. We want to have a good sex drive, and we need mTOR to be high sometimes for all of those things to happen, okay? So those are the pros and cons of mTOR being high. Now, what about mTOR being low? So this is when you're bringing in, fewer calories than you're using up, lower glucose levels, so lower carbs and sugar, lower protein levels, you're not moving around as much. Well, in that case, your mTOR is low. And what it's doing is telling your body that it's time to conserve resources. So what it does is it stops your Amazon shopping. Nothing else can come in the house. Instead, we're gonna go around the house and we're gonna use up the things that we already have. We're gonna repurpose things, we're gonna recycle things, okay? Coming back over to in terms of your body, there's something called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. And that just means that it sounds bad, it's actually good. It means that cells recognize when they are being mischievous, they're no longer being good for you, and they kind of just commit suicide instead of doing more damage. So that's a good thing that we want to happen. There's another process that happens called autophagy, and autophagy is when the cells don't die, but you actually recycle its parts. So the parts that are no longer functioning well and causing inflammation and bringing you harm, they know that those parts need to get eaten up, and the other parts of your cell that are actually still functioning really well get reused and repurposed and recycled. So that's when you close the door on the Amazon deliveries and you just use up what's in the house. You're decluttering. It's kind of like survival of the fittest, because you're going through and you're only allowing the things that are really serving you well to stay inside your body. This is when research has shown that some cells that have started to go rogue that could eventually lead to cancer often get eaten up by your own body's immune system. Most of us have cancerous cells in our body at all times. And the reason that they don't all lead to a cancer diagnosis, thank goodness, is because our immune system takes it out if it's healthy and if you're getting out of its own way, okay? So mTOR, high sometimes, low other times. That seems to be the key in reconciling these two things so that you can build muscle, have strength, have your libido, have your energy, and then also not be feeding cancer all of the time, also live a long and healthy, cross your fingers, knock on the wood, life. So some of the ways that I'm doing that is that I will cycle my energy a little bit. So I have days that I take in some higher amounts of carbohydrates and days that I take in some lower amounts of carbohydrates. I personally don't track and count my macros or my calories. I've gotten to a point where I know portion sizes and I can just kind of eyeball things as I go along. If you're just starting out, you may want to just start to look at nutrition labels and things so that you know what's in the food that you're eating, and you can do this as well. But this way, I'm not signaling to my body that every day is a high carb day, and I'm not signaling to my body that every day is a low carb day. I want mTOR to sometimes be high and mTOR to sometimes be low. I also do this by fasting. So I will do some overnight fasts, and sometimes I extend those overnight fasts even longer so that I have longer periods of fasting, so that even if I end up meeting my energy requirements, because I don't have any fat loss goals right now, so there's no need for me to eat in an energy deficit, per se, but the way that I can get that longevity benefit of the energy deficit without actually being in an energy deficit is by spacing out my meals, allowing more times for fasting, and overnight allowing a greater fast. So particularly on a day that I have a rest day, that I'm not going to be working out, which lately it's been about once a week that I've been taking a rest day, I will try to push my breakfast back even longer there because I'm not as hungry. It's just easier to do on those days. So I have some time where I'm signaling to my body that resources are scarce, so that it's going through, my mTOR is low, and it's going through and it's recycling and it's repurposing, and I've got times of apoptosis and autophagy and things like that going on. Okay, so that's going to boost longevity, again, hopefully, right? We can just go by what the science tells us. And then I've got my other inputs where I'm spiking my mTOR higher so that I can build my muscle back and grow and heal. And you know, my cycle, I pay very close attention to my cycle that is regular now. I went most of my life without a regular cycle. I had some health problems, and now finally I'm at the point where I have regular cycle and I pay attention to make sure that's going all right. So the things that I do to make sure my mTOR is high for those instances are that I make sure I onboard enough protein, and I've got those occasional higher carb days, and I exercise really hard, like 6 days a week. So those are those things, right? So I'm balancing this out, and that's kind of how I'm reconciling these two things based on the most current, most up-to-date, most accurate research. Again, this could always change. So I know that was a lot. I was trying to get it into a not too long of a video, but as always, if you have any questions, I love to chat about this stuff. So I'm very happy to answer any questions or have a discussion on this with you guys. And if you're not already in my free private Facebook group, go ahead and join. I had just released, I think it's 7 summer smoothie recipes today. So today's a good day to join if you haven't already. It's called Healthy, Fit, and Strong with Tara Allen Health, and it's free. What do you got to lose? Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.